Something. I'm going to fire Harold.
Why?
The watch is a fake.
What's fake about it?
According to the serial number.
It doesn't correspond to that one.
This is a Rolex, but it's kind of black and shiny. You can't go wrong with a Rolex.
You can't go wrong with a Rolex, and that's correct.
This is the green money Rolex.
Sorry!
Swiss watches are actually made in China, and the reason that replicas often look just as good as the original is that they are made in the same factory.
Imagine spending millions on iconic timepieces, only to find out they might be nothing more than polished lies. That's exactly what blindsided Robert Downey Jr., one of the most charismatic, stylish, and successful actors in the world. When he discovered that his prized Rolex collection might be worth far less than believed, he didn't just raise an eyebrow, he launched a battle. Robert's fascination with luxury watches is no secret. Whether walking red carpets or promoting blockbuster films, he's often seen sporting rare Rolex models, symbols of class, craftsmanship, and legacy. Some of his pieces are so exclusive they've been auctioned for six figures, but a string of viral exposés changed everything. Allegations surfaced that some Rolex watches weren't entirely Swiss-made, as advertised. Instead, reports and leaked footage suggested that the brand had been outsourcing manufacturing to undisclosed factories, cutting corners without cutting costs. When Robert saw the evidence, everything he thought he knew about the brand fell apart, and he wasn't about to play nice. It started innocently enough, with a viral TikTok. A factory worker, face blurred, showing off what appeared to be Rolex watches being assembled in a back room far from Switzerland. The caption, "They're not made here, but they're made for you." At first, people assumed it was parody, but then came the receipts. Breakdowns of parts costing just hundreds of dollars used in watches, retailing for $50,000 and up. Experts pointed out inconsistencies, engraving errors, mechanical flaws, and poor finishing that no genuine Rolex should ever have. Downey's team quietly reached out to Rolex, asking for verification and documentation for his collection. The answers were vague at best, evasive at worst. The man who played Tony Stark wasn't just a buyer, he was a walking advertisement for luxury. And now, it looked like he'd been sold a fantasy.
Swiss watches are actually made in China, and the reason that replicas often look just as good as the original is that they are made in the same factory.
Watches come in different sizes. A small dial makes your wrist slimmer, while a larger one makes you a stronger era. First of all, you need to determine your budget range. The Rolex Datejust is the best choice for cost-effective.
To Robert Downey Jr., these luxury timepieces were never just accessories. They weren't about status or even indulgence. Each one was a timestamp in his life, engraved with memories of triumphs, recoveries, and milestones. The Rolex he wore to his final Marvel shoot, the one he received after overcoming personal demons. These watches had become talismans of resilience, so when whispers began circulating that some of his most treasured pieces might not be authentic, it cut deeper than most could imagine. This wasn't a matter of financial loss, it was existential. Was the world he'd built, the credibility he'd earned, being undermined by fraud? The revelation triggered a storm inside him. Downey didn't hesitate. Within hours, his legal team was mobilized. Independent horologists were summoned for audits. Private labs were contracted. What started as suspicion quickly became a mission. And when the results confirmed his worst fears, Downey made a choice. He wouldn't go quietly. This wasn't going to be a hushed exchange behind closed doors. It was going to be public, loud, and unapologetically aggressive. Not just for himself, but for every person who ever spent their hard-earned money on a lie cloaked in gold. The actor wasn't just reclaiming his name, he was setting fire to a system built on blind trust. The legal filing hit the press like a nuclear shockwave. Robert Downey Jr. sues Rolex for fraud and misrepresentation. Within hours, the headlines were everywhere, from the Wall Street Journal to TMZ. Social media platforms buzzed with disbelief, support, and chaos. Inside the court filing, the details were surgical and damning. Rolex was accused of engaging in deceptive marketing practices that misled not just Downey, but millions around the world. The accusations weren't vague. They were backed by evidence. Detailed forensic reports noted inconsistencies in material composition, irregularities in internal mechanics, and even cloned serial numbers. Most jaw-dropping of all was a flagship Rolex Submariner Downey purchased for over $70,000, one he believed was a flawless collector's piece. It failed every authenticity test thrown at it. The kicker? It had been bought from an official Rolex-authorized retailer. Rolex clapped back swiftly, branding the lawsuit a publicity stunt and calling the claims baseless fabrications. But the backlash was already in motion. Public trust in the brand, once considered bulletproof, was hemorrhaging. Consumers who once saw Rolex as the pinnacle of craftsmanship were now revisiting every purchase with doubt. This wasn't just about a luxury brand, it was a cultural reckoning, and Downey was at the epicenter. What started with Downey snowballed into a luxury watch reckoning. In Hollywood, the fallout was immediate. Celebrities who once proudly displayed their collections were suddenly quiet, some eerily so. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned. Mark Wahlberg was rumored to have frozen a lucrative brand deal. John Mayer, a known watch connoisseur, cryptically referenced trust issues during a podcast. Serena Williams reportedly contacted private experts to reevaluate her inventory. Even rappers, influencers, and athletes known for flaunting their wristwear were seen wearing fewer pieces, or none at all. The conversation spilled into the digital realm. Hashtags like watch scam, fake flex, and luxury lie trended for days. Viral TikToks broke down common signs of forged craftsmanship. Reddit threads swelled with stories of buyers who had spent tens of thousands on watches, now clouded in suspicion. And through it all, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't backing down, he was leaning in. His interviews were fiery but articulate. His tone, righteous indignation. "This isn't a vanity lawsuit," he told Vanity Fair. "It's a question every consumer should be asking. Am I being sold a dream or a deception?" Suddenly, he wasn't just a plaintiff, he was the face of a consumer revolution. As the case progressed, the courtroom became a theater of truth, drama, and corporate reckoning. Although cameras were barred, that didn't stop the frenzy. Courtroom sketches flooded the internet, capturing Downey in composed silence, his eyes occasionally resting on a tarnished Rolex display beside his legal team. His attorneys brought out the big guns. A series of bombshell testimonies rocked the courtroom. A former Rolex quality control manager broke down while describing shortcuts taken to meet growing demand. Emails were presented that hinted at internal knowledge of acceptable variance in manufacturing, code for cutting corners. Technical experts explained how counterfeit components could be passed off as authentic even under authorized channels. Independent labs confirmed metal inconsistencies in watch casings and deviations in internal mechanism tolerances. Rolex fired back with equal force. Their executives testified under oath, blaming disgruntled ex-employees and rogue distributors. Their defense attempted to paint Downey as a fame-hungry celebrity looking to stir chaos. But with each cross-examination, that narrative unraveled. Then came Downey's own testimony. Calm, razor-sharp, and laced with emotion. "I've played heroes, but today I'm just a consumer standing up," he said. "And I know I'm not the only one who feels betrayed." The gallery was silent. So was the internet for a moment. Because this wasn't just a case anymore. It was a battle over who controls the truth, the brand or the buyer. The ripple effect from the courtroom was instant and brutal. Rolex, once synonymous with class, exclusivity, and bulletproof legacy, now had a crack in its armor that no polish could hide. It was no longer just a brand under fire, it had become the symbol of a larger illusion unraveling. Auction houses like Sotheby's and Phillips Watch were the first to react. Scheduled Rolex auctions were postponed indefinitely, according to insider sources. High-end watch resellers began pulling listings, not out of caution, but fear. Fear that buyers would sue. Fear that reputations would be destroyed by proximity. In YouTube circles, dozens of creators pivoted overnight to cover the Rolex scandal. They zoomed in on screws, movements, bezels, exposing what they called sloppy craftsmanship disguised as luxury. Reddit AMAs featured former watchmakers now blowing the whistle. TikTok exploded with unboxing videos tagged exposed watches, where influencers used high-tech scanners to test the legitimacy of their status symbols. And in every comment section, the same question echoed. If Rolex can fake it, who else is lying? That paranoia spread fast. Patek Philippe, Hublot, Audemars Piguet, Richard Mille, no one was safe. Even Omega, once a proud Olympic sponsor, issued a quiet statement affirming the integrity of its supply chain. But it wasn't just about watches anymore, it was about the system. The illusion of luxury as inherently superior. The idea that a five-figure price tag meant unquestioned authenticity. Thanks to Robert Downey Jr., that fantasy was in free fall, and the luxury world was scrambling to catch up. Robert Downey Jr. never intended to become the people's champion, but fate had other plans. What began as a personal crusade transformed into a full-blown consumer rights movement. He wasn't just in the courtroom anymore, he was on billboards, in think pieces, on late-night talk shows, but not as a movie star, as an advocate. For the first time in decades, a Hollywood A-lister wasn't selling luxury, he was dismantling it. GQ ran a front-page feature titled "From Iron Man to Integrity Man." Forbes called him the most unlikely disruptor of the decade. And Downey was just getting started. He joined forces with blockchain engineers and AI forensic analysts to launch Clarity Time, an open-source verification platform designed to expose fake or tampered watches. The process was simple. Scan the watch's serial number, upload high-res images, and the AI would flag inconsistencies using public and proprietary data. Within its first 2 weeks, the platform had over 4 million verifications and crashed 3 times due to traffic overload. Retailers began including Clarity Time reports with purchases. eBay Watch Authentication partnered up. Even authorized dealers got nervous. At Comic-Con, Downey was asked if he still wore Rolex. He smirked and said, "I'd rather trust a sundial." The audience roared, but behind the humor was a very real shift. Downey had redefined what it meant to be a responsible celebrity. He wasn't flaunting brands, he was challenging them. And by doing so, he gave a voice to every consumer who'd ever been duped, dismissed, or defrauded. Then came the day that changed luxury forever. The courtroom was packed, every seat taken. Journalists lined the walls, dozens stood outside in the rain just to hear the verdict. When the judge finally delivered the ruling, his words echoed like a hammer on glass. In the matter of Robert Downey Jr. versus Rolex SA, judgment is hereby entered in favor of the plaintiff. Gasps, shouts, silence. Rolex was ordered to pay $85 million in damages. But more than the money, it was the secondary ruling that sent shockwaves. A legal mandate requiring Rolex to publicly disclose its full manufacturing and supply chain audits, something no luxury watchmaker had ever been forced to do. Downey didn't cry. He didn't celebrate, he simply nodded. His lawyer shook his hand, and together they walked out into a crowd of reporters, like soldiers returning from war. Twitter exploded. Downey Wins was trending globally in under 15 minutes. Instagram stories from celebrities began resharing quotes from the trial. Fashion blogs scrambled to rewrite their Rolex affiliate content. Even Vogue published a somber editorial, "The End of Luxury as We Knew It." But the most powerful moment came during Downey's post-trial interview. He looked into the camera and said, "This wasn't about revenge. It was about the truth. It was about sending a message to every company that thinks prestige is a substitute for integrity. We're watching now." He paused. Luxury doesn't start with a logo, it starts with trust. And if you break that, no price tag in the world can save you. And just like that, Robert Downey Jr. didn't just win a lawsuit, he rewrote the rules of luxury, consumer power, and what it truly means to earn respect.